some running gags. Insider stories, ambush line, that dad life and respect for flags. Kick off the weekend, alright? It's the Growler Friday Show. It's Dey Light.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Dey Light. Paul Dana Jr., Mark Chalifo here with you on a Friday. Happy weekend to you, Mark. Where are you? The pillows are stacked.
We got the pillow stack.
You're in the hotel room. Where are we at?
Yeah, I am at a resort in Wisconsin for a big weekend of stand-up comedy. And it's a good place for a podcast, I feel like. I've got everything set up the way that I need to in this room. It's always weird when you walk through the hotel lobby with a ring light. People are like, oh, great, another one of these. Who knows what he's filming in his room that's going to show up on whatever subscription site. But I'm here. We're doing it. I feel good about it. What flag are you flying today?
Well, we have officially, I gave in. And we switched over to Valentine's Day, even though it's still January. Wow. I know it's all right. It's a couple week run. I'm willing to take it. There's just so much excitement for Valentine's Day in our house. It's just the way it goes. I finally gave in this week, and it is flying.
It is the season of love now.
It is the season of love. I mean, it's January 31st. It's almost February. I almost made it to February, which was my goal.
I thought you were going to have the city of Cincinnati flag for a while, or just some more generic stuff.
Yeah, but it's time. It's time. It deserved it. So I had the Oakley flag up for a couple of days. I used that as a buffer. I had the Oakley neighborhood flag up, but I gave in. It's all right. I'm okay with it. You should be too.
A lot of good questions this week from our Growl pals. A lot of people sending in their thoughts and stuff. So we've got a big show today. It's going to be a fun one.
We do have a big show. There's been a lot of news this week. I mean, it seems like a long time ago that Al Golden did a 31-minute press conference down at Paycor Stadium and then like an hour worth of one-on-ones afterwards. If you didn't know anything about Al Golden at this point, I'm telling you, you were in luck, man, this week. Lots of words from Al Golden, in case you hadn't thought about him enough over the past 3 weeks when we all basically talked about him like he was already the defensive coordinator before his actual hiring.
If you still have any questions left for Al Golden after all of that, you could probably just ask him yourself at this point. They'll probably just make him available for personal fan one-on-ones. He's got some time to really break down his defenses for everybody.
I think so.
I like that. I am here at this resort weekend, right? They do these huge comedy shows here, you know, like comics that have been on Netflix and this and that. It's a way to draw people here. So I brought my wife on this trip. And so we had a travel day yesterday, which was nice. So we were able to have dinner and stuff without having a show that night. And at dinner, she just stopped and started staring at a TV that was all the way in the bar area of this nice restaurant. And I was like, oh my God, is there breaking news? Is there some sort of tragedy? And she's like, it's the Pro Bowl games. I'm missing them. I'm like, are you serious? She's like, Jamar Chase is about to do one-handed catches. I should have taped this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but some people care about the Pro Bowl games.
You know, I mean, I would say more people are caring about anything Pro Bowl now than they did when it was an actual game. So I'll take that. Yeah. At least it's not getting made fun of, which is what would happen every single week at the Pro Bowl. Because I used to, back in the day, I used to go cover the Super Bowl every single week when I was with the Inquirer every year. Now the Athletic
every week it's fun.
Every year. But now, I mean but the whole Super Bowl week would start. You'd show up on Sunday, and everybody would show up. It's like, Super Bowl week starting, basically a big media convention of people that cover the league or whatever. We don't do it anymore because the Athletic, we have so many people that cover the NFL. But it's funny, everyone would just be sitting there making fun of the Pro Bowl. And that was what it was. Sunday night, everyone gets together, makes fun of the Pro Bowl for 2 to 3 hours, and then goes about their week. And and I feel like all of America was sort of like that, which is why they changed it. So I'm all for the Pro Bowl games and the flag football. It's better than what they were doing. It's still not interesting. As much as I love the idea and want to go try to catch a football with mascot hands, I don't know that I need that in my life. But I'll take it. I'll take whatever inventive thing that they're here to do. And Joe, you got to watch Joe Burrow do something and Jamar Chase do something, and then he took another shot at ownership afterwards, and so that was fun.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at this week. Is I don't know what sense to make out of all of the quotes from Duke Tobin about this offseason. We keep talking about how it's the biggest offseason in franchise history, And, like a lot of fans, I'm starting to get a little nervous about how this is going to shake out. And I'm not sure that I loved everything that he was saying.
Yeah, this was like so in Mobile for the Senior Bowl this week. For those that are the uninitiated, it's sort of the draft starts in Mobile is the slogan that they use for the Senior Bowl, but it really is true. I mean, in terms of really you get a lot of the biggest players go down there and they go through practices during the week, and then there's a game this weekend, and it's kind of you really get into the beginning of real draft coverage and coaches and GMs talking specifically about it. Well, Duke Tobin was down there. Kelsey Conway from the Inquirer was down there, and Butch from Bengals.com, Jeff Hobson, was down there too. And so Duke spoke and talked to Kelsey down there, and there was a lot. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend going to the Inquirer, reading the Q&A. Lots of stuff on there, and Duke addressing a number of things as they are a fascinating team right now. But they all were there was a lot of cold water involved in this. There was a lot of look, I know you guys were excited about the idea of paying all these people, but I'm here to tell you we might not be doing. Could we do a Duke Tobin translator?
Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that's needed, and these are all from the interview that Duke did with Kelsey. Again, I highly recommend. There's tons there if you want to go read more. We're just going to pick a couple snippets out. And Mark, you kind of read the quote.
So this is, there's a bunch of these that I had questions about, and then you can be our Duke Tobin translator.
I'll basically pretend to be Duke Tobin, but what he probably really meant by it.
Good, because he, without having a true GM, you're always left to parse these quotes. What do they mean? Is it about this or that? And Joe Burrow said this. Is he trying this chess move to do? It's just not clear. So I need some clarification on all this. On Jamar Chase, he said it's a priority for us. Should be a pretty easy framework to work off
of. We're gonna give Jamar what he wants. We like Jamar. We think he's the guy. That's who we're paying. And there's that Justin Jefferson contract that was given out last year. We're going to take Justin Jefferson's name. We're going to do one of those find and replace functions. And we're going to put Jamar Chase in there with it. And then we're going to add, a small percentage to it. And then hope that that's okay with Jamar. We expect that to be, we assume that Jamar is going to be okay with that, even though he might not be.
Yeah, well, if that's the approach, then I'm glad that I'm not going to have to see him wearing a hat all camp. And what's he wearing today?
Well, we don't know if Jamar's going to be okay with that, though. I mean, that's just it. Is Jamar going to be okay? Yes, last year's price is not this year's price, right? I mean, you can't just plug in Justin Jefferson's contract when Jamar is now worth potentially much more. Justin Jefferson never had a triple crown.
That's true. He did
Justin
not.
Jefferson never, had to deal with maybe T. Higgins is going to leave and you're going to need him to do more. Okay. I mean, I'm just saying that these are the conversations that you're going to hear. I don't know that it's going to be that easy, but it sounds like they're hoping it's going to be that easy. Look, there's a framework. Just take the Justin deal. Okay. You don't need to be asking for 40. Justin got 35. There's a framework.
Yeah. The framework. I don't. And that's frustrating too. Cause it's like, hey, we like Jamar. We're going to give him whatever it takes for him to be the highest paid non-quarterback, whatever. He's our guy. Do that deal last offseason then. That's what makes it so frustrating. If you felt that way about him, do it then. And you would have saved money. Anyway. This next quote about the Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, how that's going to work together. And he said it's going to be hard. We feel like we have the resources to do it, but it all depends on how the negotiation goes and whether they're willing to accept wanting to come back at a number that makes sense for everybody.
We can pay T. We don't particularly want to pay him what everyone else does. So if he wants to pay him what we want, if he wants to take what we're going to give him, then we'll do that. But I mean, we don't plan on giving him what everybody else plans on giving him. So if he wants to stay here, then he can take our number. I think that's kind of what he's saying here. There wasn't a lot of urgency or excitement about paying T. Higgins there. I'll say that much.
Yeah, that's a lot of cold water on the vibes that we were all hoping for, especially after Burrow stumped for him so hard. What about this quote about T. Higgins, that they were looking for a number for his experience, production, and playtime? What does that mean?
They think he's hurt too much, and he isn't a number one here. I'm not going to pay him like a number one when he's not our number one. I'm not going to pay him to play 17 games when he never plays 17 games. That's what he's saying. And he's so devaluing a little bit of what T. Higgins brings there, saying, well, you don't always play. And we've talked about that a lot here on the show, is the injury stuff is a hang up here. The injury stuff, and every year, his snap count. I mean, the last 2 years, he's played 54% of the snaps for the Bengals. So you can almost hear the whispers that would be happening in the front office. Well, how about he should take 54% of whatever that market value is? I'm saying that. They're not saying that. But I'm saying that sounds like what is going on here, right? Playtime mentioned specifically, okay? Production mentioned specifically. He's not Jamar Chase, okay? This is a different level. The fact that playtime gets mentioned, I think it shows you why that's a hang up for them.
Yeah, I'm so on the fence with this too, because it's like when T. Higgins gets hurt at the start of the season, I'm like, here we go again. This is why you can't give him the big deal. And then when he's good at the end of the season, I'm like, whatever, just give him the big deal. This is fun. T is a need. We got to have T out there. But maybe some accountability, and that's never a bad thing. Making sure that players are delivering on what you're paying them and having some accountability. That's, you wish you would have that in the front office when all these draft picks get missed and deals don't get done, but at least there could be accountability somewhere, I guess. What about one more T quote that they had? This is, if we're really engaged with his representation in doing that, I think we can get it done. Is that optimistic?
It's the agent's fault. This is what, it feels like, here we go again. A new agent. Now it's this agent's fault. Before it was that agent's fault. Now it's this agent's fault. I mean, if we're really engaged with his representation in doing that, that suggests they don't feel engaged with the representation, or it would already be done, right? Isn't that kind of the insinuation here? That if they really want to do it, if they really want to talk about this, they need to be doing a better job to talk about it. Because if it doesn't get done, it's going to be whose fault? The agent's fault. And just like with Jesse Bates, it was the agent's fault. Just like, with Trey Hendrickson wanting the trade last year, we heard about the agent last year. Just like, we heard about the agent with T and Mulugeta there. And so it's like, okay, I got a new agent because I want to be here. And now we're hearing again about this agent problem. The agent was a problem with the Jamar negotiations last year too. I mean, are we noting a trend here?
And here's my problem with that is you get that once. You can do it with one agent. You can't do it across the board. It reminds me of a quote from Justified. Were you ever a Justified guy?
No, I wasn't a Justified guy, but I'm here to listen. It was
a great show. You should have seen it when it came out a decade ago, whatever it was. And I'll clean up the quote a little bit, but the main character is basically talking to somebody, and I think he said it was something like, if you meet an a-hole in the morning, you met an a-hole. If you're meeting an a-hole all day, you're the a-hole, that's what it comes down to. It's like, eventually we can't keep buying that it's the agent's problem. The arrows are going to go right back to the ownership on that.
And I'm sure there are agents that are harder to deal with than others. And I think David Mulugeta is a pain in the butt to deal with when he was the agent. And I'm sure that that's the case, but it does become hard when they have managed to get many deals done, all of these agents. And we keep hearing about how hard it is to do here. It's hard to keep selling it. Like you said, it's hard to keep selling it. I'm here to buy that it is hard, but it's hard to keep selling.
Also, doesn't he have Jamar's agent now? Isn't that what it is?
Well, yeah, Jamar and T have the same agent now, right?
How do you have one where you're like, there's a framework, there's a deal, this is going to be easy, and like that works out fine, and then the next one is going to be, well, it's the agent's fault. It's like, how can you do your work well with the agent on one and not the other? Like,
they haven't worked well on the agent on the other one yet.
That's true.
They may just because they say there's a framework doesn't mean that they're working well with the agent. The framework is what's already been done elsewhere. That doesn't mean that the agent
will that
is going to accept that framework.
What about, all right, so Trey Hendrickson, we haven't talked about Trey yet. So that was a big one. I saw that was the first quote I saw from this, and him saying that Duke Tobin saying, Trey, has he earned a pay raise and a bump and an extension? Yes, he has, and we are cognizant of that, and we will give that to him. That's all good. But whether we agree on what that looks like is what is to be determined. What does that mean? Guy led the NFL in sacks. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, Trey's underpaid. We gave him a great deal. We were smart about that. And then we got him to take this extension. Can you believe that? So he's under contract. Okay, we did that. So good for us. He is underpaid. I recognize I can't even hide from that anymore. Like, we have to he has to get more money. He's been good. He's outplayed it. I also don't plan on paying him TJ Watt money. So we'll just see how explosive this gets. I think that's kind of what that's saying. Is like, look, I mean, I recognize that I can't get away with giving him only that, he's going to make $16 million in cash this year. I can't really get away with that for the defensive player of the year candidate. At this point, I recognize that he wants this. I'm here to work with him, but I'm not going to give him, we're not going to end up in the 30 range like Nick Bosa. We're not going to be up there with TJ Watt. We're not going to be up there in that area. And so if he's uncomfortable with that, well, I don't really know what to tell him other than he's under contract for next year. And so that feels like there's a lot going on there as well. So it's just going to be a long off season, I think, is kind of is really maybe a bigger method on all of that.
There was one more that I had a question about. This is about Jermaine Burton, everyone's favorite slot guy. This was his quote on Jermaine Burton. He's done nothing.
Here's my Duke Tobin translator on that. He's done nothing. I mean, this is it. I mean, I actually kind of thought the Jermaine Burton thing that Duke said was almost an endorsement because he could have said he's no longer on the team. It could have said we're done. Like, he's done nothing. I'm done. I'm doing nothing. I'm letting him go because I'm over it. Right? No, this was he's got to be better immediately. Essentially, it sounded like, all right, one more time. And that's it for you, sir. This is your last final warning. Okay. That's what it feels like. A finger wag of a last final warning for you. One more of these and it's over.
I kind of thought that, he'd be gone anyway after that. So it does feel like they are going to give him another chance to, make an impression and see what he can do. Do you think some of that is they don't want to take the heat for blowing a 3rd round pick?
No, I think it's too late for that. I mean, I think they recognize they blew it. He talks about they knew the risk and the risk kind of blew up on them on this one. I think that's true there. But I think they're just saying, look, we're going to give him the offseason to not screw it up. And if he screws it up, that'll be that. And I think that's fair. I'm okay. If you're going to, I would be done. That's me. But if I'm okay with, if you want to go through the offseason when you're not costing a team games, where you're not showing up at OTAs, isn't going to, you're not putting a game plan in that's got to be executed 2 days later. He needs to go through an off season of building trust and not screwing it up once, showing up to everything, doing what he says he's going to do, staying out of trouble, you name it, right? He has to do all of that stuff before you entertain bringing him in and ever finding trust in him when games become on the line again. And so if that's the method, okay. I would have been harsher and just been done with it, but okay, I can see that too. And that sounds like what Duke was saying.
You kind of know how that's going to play out. Like, do you think he's going to just radically change who he is overnight? And I feel that same way about all this cold water you're throwing on the vibes. It's like, they've got this huge deal to figure out. They've got this huge thing to figure out. They've got the Trey thing to figure out. And I'm just have my fingers crossed that it's all going to come together perfectly when there's just no precedent for that.
You know where it can come together perfectly, Mark?
Where's that? Where?
The mock off season sheet.
The mock off season sheet.
Get into the mock off season sheet. People, I hope people that are listening to this know about it at this point. But you can go check out mock off season. You can do all of it. You can cut. You can trade. You can sign free agents. You can do everything. You can say, I'm giving T an extension, giving Jamar extension. I'm giving Trey an extension. I'm doing all of it. I'm bringing them all back.
You get crazy.
You can see what you can do. Get in there and do the mock off season sheet. You can do it all.
Yeah, it's fun. Like to pretend like if you were the one making those calls, like maybe you want to give Sheldon Rankins $30 million a year because he kicked you back 15 and you just kind of robbed the organization for a couple of years as a GM. Like that's part of mock off season sheet.
Part of mock off season. I did want to point out Joe Burrow at the Pro Bowl, like the fun Pro Bowl games, and that we mentioned earlier, it's kind of taking the shot. Pro Bowl games, and then it ends with yet one more. I'm honestly like, I tweeted this last night. I'm having trouble keeping up with how many times he's taken these veiled shots at the organization. They're not really veiled anymore.
What did he say?
He said, I don't know what more he could show and do to prove himself, talking about Jamar Chase. We have several guys like that who have stepped up for us and deserve to be paid what they're worth. That's a notable conclusion there. These guys deserve to be paid what they're worth. Okay. So, and I think the last Duke Tobin translator on that would be him saying, Jamar, you're worth it. T, you're not worth what you're going to get. How about you accept less than you're worth and stay here? Trey, you're kind of worth it, but not really. I think that's kind of the messages that we've heard. And you can hear Burrow saying they're all worth it.
Yeah.
Okay. Like they're all worth what their market value is, what other teams are willing to pay them. And so whether it's here or elsewhere, it sounds like they've all just kind of thrown their hands up. Can you please just let us make the money that people want to pay us?
Yeah.
Someone's willing to pay us this money. Can you just let us go do it at this point? You know,
and
it feels like a hostage situation. You know,
that's
they just want to go make what they're worth.
Disappointing about that. And I guess T. Higgins is going to have to make a decision, because I could see him wanting to still play with Joe and Jamar and take a little less. I can understand that. I understand him, getting as much money as he can somewhere else. Like, I understand both of those moves for him. What I don't get is when you've got the face of the franchise, the person that resurrected this franchise, putting all this public pressure on the front office and, putting those comments out there. The whole narrative around this team is like, the Bengals always do it this way. They always wait until this date. They're always going to drag it out to save every dollar. You're coming off a season where Joe Burrow put up MVP numbers. Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown. Trey Hendrickson was an absolute terror, and you still didn't make the playoffs. The narrative needs to change. Why not just pay a little more and get the Jamar thing done so we can get some positivity and get some hope that maybe this offseason is going to be different? Like, why not?
I think there's a long way to go, and we can see where they actually do end up with this stuff. And a lot of this is part of the negotiation that you're going through, and that's part of it. I think that it's tough when you're constantly hearing about what you're not and what you're not worth, and dealing with offers that obviously haven't been what they feel that they should be, and even admittedly what you're not making what they should. It's like it's hard when you're hearing that stuff all the time, going through it. And I think Burrow is just kind of standing up for his guys. Like, they're all worth this. And teams in the NFL believe that. And for T, though, like, the T thing is really the big one here. I mean, they're all big in their own way, but like, because Jamar's gonna get done. I just don't even honestly think much about it. Like, I just think Jamar's gonna get done. It'll be big.
So just do it.
Yeah, just give it time. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. Okay,
it'd be nice if it did, though.
It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. It'd be nice if it didn't drag on. As long as it's not happening in camp.
Yeah.
Okay. No one wants to go through Hat Watch again. So as long as it's over by camp, I'm fine with it. Just get it. I think that will get done. I don't have a whole lot of problems with that. The T thing, T's in a great spot. T made it. He's going to hit free agency, or he's going to decide the number that the Bengals offered me was worth it. He doesn't have to do anything other than sit there. Now they can tag him and trade him, and his representation would be a part of getting traded to a place that was going to pay him, that was going to be willing to pay him whatever in free agency. And maybe that's what happens. But like, he's in a good spot. He's going to either get the money that he wants, or he's going to end up coming back and staying where he wants to stay for a number that he's comfortable with. That's going to be his decision to make in these negotiations, wherever they land. And he probably would wish that the Bengals would just pay him what everybody else is going to be willing to pay him, but that's just not the nature of it with Jamar here. And Hendrickson thing will get worked out too. I mean, whether they trade him or whether they decide to pay him at, he signed this contract. He signed this extension. That's the tough part of it. Like, you got to live with that. We've all signed things that we wish we didn't. I signed a waiver for something last night for my kid, and I'm like, I don't know if I should be signing this, but I'm like, hopefully we don't need to deal with any of these issues. Hopefully they don't pop up. I'll just sign an initial here. And so, like, we all sign things we regret later, and I'm positive that Trey has to regret signing that extension at this point. He'd rather be going into free agency just like T.
Yeah.
And then he could have that out there. He'd get paid whatever he wants, but he didn't. And so that's fine. You got to live with that. And they're willing to give you more money. That's good too. I just think it all works itself out. Let's give it time to play out and judge afterwards. This was not, if you were looking for Duke to come out and say, we're going to give all these guys all this money, it's not really the way they've ever operated. And they are in a tough spot. I mean, there's no team. Say what you want to about the stereotype of the Bengals and the history, and we hear about that all the time. There's no team that would be in this situation and be like, this is a piece of cake.
Yeah.
I mean, they have, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in football, and they're going into the meat and potatoes of that deal. About to have a Triple Crown winner who's going to be the highest paid non-quarterback in football. They have the number one free agent on the market they're trying to keep, and a defensive player of the year candidate at edge rusher, another premium position. Like, this stuff doesn't just happen. It doesn't happen every year. And to have to feed all those mouths on a team that had an incredibly disappointing season with a ton of holes to fill, like, this is a jigsaw puzzle from hell, man. So let's see how it plays out and judge it along the way.
I don't like that every time he's in front of a camera, though, Joe Burrow's got to throw more into this. I mean, don't you think he's probably expressed these thoughts to ownership behind the scenes?
He's just answering the question. I don't have a problem with what Joe's doing. He's just stating his opinion. And he's, him and Duke do speak. They've already spoken. Apparently, Kelsey had that in the interview too, this year. And they try to stay in lockstep about it. And I'm sure he doesn't always agree. I'm sure he doesn't agree with what some of the decisions they're making here. And he just is saying that he wants to see them get paid what they're worth. And he obviously is going to stand up for his guys. And I don't think anybody has a problem with that.
Yeah,
honestly. But it is, it is public. He has that power. They gave him that power. Talk about signing contracts. The Bengals gave Joe Burrow that power when they gave him that contract, when they made him their quarterback, when they guaranteed that money. They said, we trust you with the face and attitude of the organization, with our livelihood too. And he can say and do what he wants to do, what he thinks is part of that. He's basically part of the family at this point with the power that he wields. And so that's part of this. Everybody's kind of living with all sides of this. It's just a hairy mess right now. And it's going to be a long-ass offseason.
Yeah, let's jump into some of our questions here from the Growl Pals. We will take all your questions to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. This first one is from Kevin. He wants to know who this guy is that's being thrown into these stadium negotiations. Another thing that ownership has got to deal with in one way or another. What's the latest with this?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a week or two ago, I guess, about
something like that.
Yeah, tell me when I need to care. I think this is interesting and important. I mean, look, I think it's apparent that the county and the Bengals weren't exactly operating on a great situation. It wasn't really great. Okay, there was a lot of very angry emails and a lot of not connecting that was happening. So, and it seems like the Bengals just they contend that they want market value of what's happening in other markets. I mean, that was part of the email back and forth there too. So here's somebody who has done a ton of these negotiations in other markets: Atlanta, Houston, Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville, Nashville, done these deals between figuring out percentages that teams and state and NFL and city and county all pay. If you want to find market value, well, somebody comes with an expertise in that. I'll take that over county commissioners being like, we want a good deal, with no clue what they're talking about. And all respect to them, this is not their wheelhouse. Okay. You know what I mean? They're not supposed to be experts in national contract negotiations with stadium. Just make sure the trash keeps getting picked up in front of my house. You know what I mean? They've got enough problems to deal with. Bring in somebody. Bring in somebody who knows what the hell they're doing with this, and have them be the one that talks with the Bengals about this and helps lead the way. the county prosecutor's office also still leading negotiations. There's a bunch of people in the room, but you need somebody who can be a representative of what is happening everywhere else to make sure that this deal is in line with the others. Because it wasn't that, to me, that was the biggest problem of the deal in the 90s was people felt like they got screwed compared to everybody else. The county felt like, and the taxpayers felt like they got screwed compared to what everybody else in the country had, and all very similar types of deals. Well, but here's the deal to try to make sure that doesn't happen again. That said, in June, the Bengals can choose whether to kick this can down the road for 2 more years because they have 5 2-year rolling extensions. That is that the Bengals have control over. They can choose to be like, we don't like what we're hearing. We're going to put 2 more years on this. And so get used to that. I feel like this probably won't be the only time that could come to be.
All right. Well, that's a fun thing to keep an eye on. Let's just jump into this.
We're just like, when do we get the light? Stuff. When do we get to the light part of Who Dey Light? Like, I'm sorry, right, man. We're money and negotiations. It's just brutal.
Even the Pro Bowl games had a sour tint to it with Burrow, stumping through his
trying
guys.
to catch passes with mascot hands. We should have stayed there. We should have kept the focus on that.
So this first question's a big one. So, pay attention to all of the legs of this.
Okay.
It starts off with a sigh. Can you give any insight into the most likely timelines for this season's priorities? I know getting the coaching staff was number one, but now with your report that Eric All is out for 2025, there's some crucial dominoes to fall with Higgins and Chase. When you look at the team needs, defensive tackle, defensive end, linebacker, safety, offensive guard, and now tight end, it's crucial they know what they have. With Burton being a dramatic strikeout, if you can't sign T, wide receiver might go to the direct top of that list. They can negotiate now with Chase and T. They've had months to sort out the finances, especially since Joe put them on notice in November. Is there any hope this will be done before the combine so they can start focusing on these other positions? What's the holdup? That's from Paul. Okay. He says he loves the pod and he will pay you a subscription fee. So, you just got to give him a number, and I guess he'll just mail you a check or something.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, feel free to send whatever donation, I guess. If you just feel that you should.
We'll take questions.
I like that idea. Like, if it's like it ends up like on Around the Horn when someone makes a good point and Tony Reale just gives them a couple points. Like, if you feel like you're listening to the pod and you feel like Mark had a great joke, and I made a good point about negotiations, you can just like go to my Venmo and just go tap, 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 and just tap in a few bucks. Hey, wow, what a great idea. We should really have that. Use that QR code. That's a great idea.
You want me to read your question, a few bucks my way? Yeah. That might help get it up to the top of the list on the show.
Let's do it dueling pianos style. It's like whoever gives the biggest tip ends up getting their question to the top. I think this is a great idea. This is a fantastic
I like it. I'm
idea.
on board with it.
Look, we can give the money to charity. I don't have to take it in personally. We can always do that.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. Or you could keep it. The human fund, right? For my Seinfeld fans out there. Money for people. All right.
Where do you stand on the
I don't understand this question totally. I'm going to admit. I appreciate it. There are a lot of elements here. I'm a little overwhelmed by it. But I'll just say, timeline for all of this stuff. Yes, it was coaches need to get locked in. They've done that. Boom. Al Golden, Jerry Montgomery, Michael Hodges, Scott Peters, Mike McCarthy is his assistant. All the coaches locked in. Good. I think there's maybe like some quality control stuff that still has to happen, but that's done. Now the scouts and personnel team comes back from Senior Bowl. They're going to meet and kind of reassess everything. The coaches start to get folded in now at this point, once you start getting into prep for the combine and free agency, which is going to happen over the month of February. Now that includes figuring out T. And the last year it was February 20th was the date they could first put the franchise tag on T. And then the deadline ends up being early in March, a couple weeks before the new league year, that you have to declare your franchise tag. That will be a big moment in the timeline. That will be the moment where they have to figure out, are they going to let T get to free agency? Are they going to agree to a deal, a long-term deal to stay here? Are they going to tag him with what I would assume at that point then be the signal to the league of tag and trade? So that's going to be a big point to look at, is that window this year with T. And that's kind of the domino that sets a bunch of things forth. If if, like Duke said, if he feels like he has the framework for Ja'Marr, that thing, would you like to get it done immediately? Sure. It just feels like that lasts a little longer, and that ends up going further down the line. That the T thing is kind of the first thing that gets worked out. And you're right. I think you need to know T answer. You need to know the Trey answer before you get into the draft for sure. T will be answered by free agency. So, because look, the answer, they need an edge rusher regardless of whether Trey's back or not. So they're looking at that in free agency. They're probably going to look to add there. And it would just determine how aggressive they are with edge rusher in the draft if they had made a move and moved Trey and added a pick, right?
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
So there's not necessarily a pre-free agency deadline on that. But the T thing is going to hit soon. And that's kind of the next timeline. If we're talking about timelines to look at, they'll know their priorities plenty by the time they hit free agency. And I think they probably have a pretty good idea how it all ends anyway, right now. And so if you're looking for it, I guess that's where it's at. I don't know. It's just so messy.
Yeah.
It's just so messy.
Well, let's get to something a little bit lighter finally on this show.
Please. I'm ready for light.
Is from Scott. He first wants to say that your article on Al Golden was your best work to date. I assume that must be the only article of yours he's ever read then, if he thinks that's your greatest ever. Like, I thought it was fine. It was good. But
yeah,
it wasn't.
I think it was very good, actually. I actually wasn't super thrilled with it. I thought it was okay.
I thought it was
but I appreciate it. I'm thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. I should send some of my better work forward to you, I guess.
Yeah, send him that 4-parter on T. Higgins. I feel like that's a good starting place.
Still relevant. Still hanging in there.
Run, pass, or boot, the following choices. You both have to be crossing guards on the street the players cross on their way to training camp.
Okay.
You both have to go grocery shopping with Mike Brown at Costco, or Paul has to write jokes for Mark, and Mark has to write an article for Paul for The Athletic.
Oh, run, pass, or boot. What am I run, pass, or booting? What I most want to do?
Yes.
Is that what this is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What do you think?
Well, I think for me, because I, have a little bit of a background in sports media, like it wouldn't be that hard for me to just step in and write a crappy article, like I could come up with something solid that your editors would juice up and be like, man, maybe Paul's battling the flu today. Maybe he's just kind of got an early tea time, but we can make this passable. I feel like that might be the most fun of these three.
I think you could pull that. You could definitely pull it off. I think you're giving my editors too much credit. Shout out, Dave. You can't just juice it up. All right.
Yeah, it's
you're gonna have to bring
it
a little bit. I mean, you could churn out something to the level of the Golden story. I think.
I did write a front page story for ESPN.com 15 years ago, so there is
That's
that.
true. That is
not
true.
Everyone
what
has
was it
on the resume. It was on the only Olympic medalist that was killed in combat. He was a boxer that died in Vietnam.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dey Light, ladies and gentlemen. We're really avoiding the light, even when we try.
Like, bring up some Vietnam stories. That's what we need.
Tell me more about Vietnam. No, I would say I would want to go grocery shopping with Mike Brown at Costco.
Why?
It's like watching Picasso paint. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to see a genius at work, And I would like, what is it like when people approach Mike? Like, I'm curious what is his he doesn't, I don't know that he's out there at Costco, but I'd be here to see what it is like, how people approach and treat him. He's such a gentle man. And I think people would be surprised by that. And I'd be curious what every interaction would be like. And I'd also be curious his thoughts about Costco as a whole.
It's
I'm sure he never
overwhelming.
imagined this being America when he was, a kid.
I can't. There's no part of me that wants to go grocery shopping with an elderly person, especially at Costco. Like, that is not where you want to take them.
I think
You're
it'd be
moving
fun.
so slowly.
I enjoy conversations with Mike. I know he's very misunderstood. I enjoy talking to him and hearing him tell stories and deal with regular life stuff. So I'd be here for that. I think it would actually be highly entertaining.
Now,
I'd really enjoy
the golf cart through Costco. I would do that if we're not walking around pushing a cart. If he can just ride around, then people are diving out of the way and it's real dramatic. I would do that.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
And if he needs to have a have a conversation with an employee there about something. He just kind of tells him to sit in the cart and drives around in a circle and in the middle of one of the aisles or whatever, just keeps going and talking and lets him out, do it that
it's
way.
like a
I like that idea.
podcast. Just jump on. Here's our guest for a couple laps. The guy that
golf cart
restocks
rides with Mike Brown would be a podcast I would be turning into for no doubt about that. The crossing guards I don't really care about. I see it every day. I don't want to be a crossing guard. I have no desire to be a crossing guard. It doesn't sound fun. I would try to write jokes for you. I don't think they'd be very good, but I'd be happy to try. I think you would be better at writing stories for me than I would be writing jokes for you. Maybe I'll try to come up with one that you try to use tonight in Wisconsin.
Yeah, maybe we could do like a Freaky Friday thing, where we just switch jobs for the day and see how it goes. You go on stage for me. I try and, write something, a 4-part story about T. Higgins and in a single day. I don't know if we could quite pull that off, but it might be fun to see how it goes.
Yeah, but not for you. You're the one that's going to have to stand on stage and take the heat. I can just kind of hide and, not worry about what you wrote.
David from Pleasant Ridge reaches out with the next one. He loves the pod, enjoyable to listen to while pretending to work on Friday afternoons. Love to hear it. He's also a flag nerd. Did not expect that twist coming here. He's a dad to a 6-year-old named Rosie, so he feels like you and him have a lot in common.
We do.
He's turning 40 later this year, and he wants to know if he should already be talking to his wife about a trip to Madrid for the Bengals versus Dolphins game as his birthday gift.
Oh, I hope so. Selfishly, I very much want to go to Madrid. I don't have an answer on that. Maybe. They're on the short list there of teams that the Dolphins are playing that could potentially, be the team that they play over Madrid. So it's possible. I just don't know. They announced the host cities earlier because they have to do season ticket changes, all that stuff. There's a bunch of logistical stuff if you're the home team giving up a home game, whereas an away team, it's just here's where you're going. And so they can wait later, and they like to do, the schedule makers, that happens later and later anymore. So I don't think the Bengals know. We don't really know. And I think it's still for the league to decide who those opponents are going to be for that game. So I don't think we'll find that out till closer to the schedule. I wish I had a better answer for you because I'd love to be plotting a trip to Madrid as well. Hopefully we are. Hopefully, if you are, let's have a drink together and talk about flags. That's something I can get behind. Let's go.
That's, if you guys are out there, like, Americans get such a bad rap internationally, but if you were living in one of these foreign countries and you overheard a couple Americans talking about their love of different types of flags, you'd probably have more respect for our country. So you'd be doing us all a favor out there. This next question. Oh, this is more of a statement. And I like this from Kyle, right? He says he's a huge fan of the pod. Perfect way to get through the mundane days of Cincinnati winter. And he wants to give a big thank you to you for building the mock offseason spreadsheet. His buddies and him are deciding to gamble on it because we're bored, which is exactly why gambling is so great.
Yeah.
He created a point system for every selection with a winner take all for the prize money. So he would be honored if you would like to join. I don't know if you want, as the creator of the mock offseason draft sheet, if you're allowed to participate. That seems kind of unfair since you should know all the tricks.
I can submit my sheet and see how it does. I'm happy to do that. I don't think you want me. I don't know. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah. What happens if you just step in and take everybody's money though?
What if I don't? See, this is kind of a lose-lose for me, right? I feel terrible if I come in and then take the money of these nice people who listen to the podcast and engage in the sheet and obviously are fans of that. I don't want to step in and then have to take anybody's money. I wouldn't want to win like that. But if I come in and I get rocked, then I look like an idiot, right? Like he didn't have any clue what he was talking about. So I don't want that either. It's probably a lose-lose. My sheet's on record. So you guys can look at how I do compared to you. I don't need to be monetarily involved in anything, but I love that you guys are doing that. And maybe this is the next spinoff that needs to happen. I need to get involved with gambling. Let's get BetMGM in here. Let's put the sheet up there on the board. Let's go.
I think at the very least, Kyle here should enter your sheet in the contest. And if you win, send the prize money to me. I will accept it on your behalf. That way you kind of stay above the game as the creator of the sheet. And you still get to know how you would have stacked up. And if it doesn't turn out your way, well, you didn't officially enter. You weren't really throwing yourself into it. So you don't have to take the heat for that either. I feel like that's how the best way we handle this.
That's fine. If that's what you're comfortable with, I'm comfortable with it.
Do you want a full kit wanker story? We got one of those from
yes, I do.
More Growl Pal from Mississippi.
Stories. Shout out to our friends in the UK.
Yeah, if you missed that show, a full kit wanker, we'll get to it here, but it's not. It's nothing criminal. I know it sounds like a peeping Tom type thing or something like that. It's not. It is. So he says, loves the shows. You are basically how he gets his Bengals news, being down there in Mississippi. I guess the rest of the internet doesn't get down there, so at least you're coming through.
People are definitely just saying things that aren't true anymore to get their questions right, and I'm okay with it. Like I'm okay with flattery, even if it's just lies.
Yeah, we'll take lies. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll take lies.
Take lies, we'll take Venmos. Quick story on how he figured out what a full kit wanker was. He's a big Aston Villa fan going back to a class he took at Ole Miss in 2002. He pulled the trigger in 2014, ordered a home jersey or shirt for Paul. They call jersey shirts. I don't like that. That's not cute. So he ordered a home jersey and away shorts. Well, this package arrived on a Friday. At that point in my life, I would never miss a happy hour with friends on Friday. So when my girlfriend, now wife, and I returned to my apartment after many drinks, there it was. He was so excited, he ripped it open and put on both the shirt and the shorts and made her take my photo. That's definitely not a sober move. He posted this photo to Twitter and mentioned the club with a customary up the villa cheer and didn't think much about it. Given the time difference, his tweet didn't get much attention, but he woke up the next day to thousands of mentions, which seemed odd. He was a radio host at the time, but as you can assume, his shows didn't really gain a lot of traction on the NPR affiliate in Mississippi. The club had actually retweeted his picture, and there were thousands of fans who follow the Villa on Twitter who replied to the post with hashtag full kit wanker. Once I looked it up, I was sad. I've since purchased a good bit more club gear, but only wear one thing at a time. Love the pod. Hope we can keep Mike Hilton. I love having him on the team. So that is our full kit wanker story for the week.
Shout out Sam. I love that. You never want to wake up to thousands of mentions. I do not care. There is no situation where that's good. Like, that really, when you weren't expecting it. There's no situation where that's good. I love the discovery. I would have loved to see the real-time discovery of why it was happening and be like, oh no.
You get the reaction videos and stuff where like there's a big play in a game or there's like a dramatic turn in a TV show they haven't seen and people get those little reaction videos. I would have loved it if the girlfriend had like taken a video of him scrolling and just being like, oh no, just wake up to an international roasting like that from across the pond. That is huge.
Oh man, I am a full kit wanker. I love it. Thank you for that story, Sam. That was great.
And I want to stay on record saying you can be a full kit wanker with Bengals stuff. Wear your shorts, your sweatpants, your hoodies. I don't care. Let that be a thing that they complain about. I'm not gonna take you to task for it.
What about Growl Pal full kit wankers? Can we get Growl Pal shorts?
Oh, that would be like big.
Some Growl Pal shorts. And you could wear a Growl Pal shirt, and we can get some like Growl Pal hats or something, and like maybe even some socks.
Yeah,
and you could go full kit Growl Pal wanker.
That would be huge.
Yeah,
that would definitely get you a special seat at BetMGM Nation Kitchen for one of our live shows. That would get you right up front.
No,
you'd be in rarefied air.
Whatever you want. I'm pretty sure I'd probably buy you lots of stuff. I'm pretty sure.
You'd be Graders worthy at the very least if you went full Growl Pal.
No question.
Ambush Light.
Ambush Light time. I think we have one for you. It says, who would you most want to share a hotel room with on the road? Casey Rocket, Ari Shafir, or Mark Norman? I don't know these people. Do you know these people?
All right, so I'm friends with Mark Norman, so that would be an easy answer for me. He's probably the most famous of these three and maybe the best comic. Ari Shafir is another great comic. I've met him once. He's a little too much of a wild card. I'm not Mark Norman is more of a drinker. I'm more of a drinker. Ari is a lot of other substances that I don't know that I could keep pace with him. I don't know Casey Rocket. I know he's a Kill Tony guy. And, so I'm not super familiar with him. So that's definitely off my list. And you should look up at least Ari and Mark. I can vouch for their stand-ups. They've got stuff on Netflix and other outlets. You should go check them out sometime.
I'm in. Let's see. What do we got? Bonus question. When are you coming to Lexington? Our ribs beckon. Are you going to Lexington anytime soon?
I'm trying to come to Lexington. I had a date for December and that got canceled. So I'm sure I'll be back probably in the spring, maybe summer. We're still working that out, but I will be coming down to Lexington Comedy Off Broadway, one of my favorite rooms in the country. So I will be coming down there soon. And let's see. Oh, we've got another Ambush Light question. Actually, this could go both ways too. This guy started with a lot of praise, loved the show, listened to every episode. He's liked and subscribed, written positive reviews, and he's an exemplary podcast listener.
All right, I love that.
His Ambush Light question. It's award season and mock off season. Who is this year's MVC in your household? Most valuable child. So you're not saying that you have a favorite kid, just a favorite kid right now. Also, he's got a PS. He's listened to every episode, and he still has no idea what Arby's are.
Okay.
It took him a few months to decipher the idea behind RPBs, so maybe he's just dense. Can you please explain Arby's and then tell us who your favorite child is?
Okay, Arby's it's not Arby's like the Jay's favorite restaurant, Arby's. It's spelled ARBIES. Any related Bengals insight extras stories, which obviously stems off of Jay's love of Arby's is where we started, but it was just a way that we could throw something else that we had in a segment of the podcast. So Arby's, any related Bengals insight extras stories is what Arby's is. So thank you for I do get that periodically. So you're not dense. Well, you may be, but that's not why.
Yeah, other reasons possibly
I can't really attest to that. I don't know you very well, but you don't seem dense, judging by the fact that you listen to this podcast all the time, and you're obviously very smart with that. MVC, what's your MVC situation?
So it's a little bit easier for me when you just have two kids. It feels a little bit harder to be like, oh yeah, this one's the killer right now. But I've got three, so. Right now would be our middle kid because she is the most independent of the three. She's helping out the most with the chores. She also was the reason we went to Columbus for the gymnastics meet, and she did well there and got herself a gold medal and a couple silver medals and stuff. So right now she's definitely MVC in our household. She's kind of keeping us all together, and the other two are a little bit more wild cards lately. But I think he makes a good point. Everybody has their turn on the top with kids, like everyone's going to have their moment where it's like, oh, this one's actually really coming through. And this one's throwing a tantrum right now in the middle of this Chili's. So she's down the list pretty far, but it's our middle one right now. She's got it locked down.
Yeah, that's a hard one. You're right. When you have two, it feels a little too personal when you're just picking one over the other. Now, I would say my dog is on the cut list, right? Like Uncle Phil right now, he's just been a lot lately. I don't know what's going on with him, but he's extra barky. He's always like right between our legs when we're like walking around. He's like chasing us down. He's doing lots of extra. He's being very demanding and needy in terms of always needing to get extra pets and bones and treats and going outside. Something's going on with Uncle Phil right now. He's just being really needy. Okay. So I love giving him pets and bones and treats and everything, but it's just right now, you know how it is. Sometimes just a lot. It's just one thing too many right now. We're all in the house a lot. It's been cold. I don't have like some big mansion. Okay. And Phil's he's a pretty active dog for a small house, So I think it's just this time of year, but that would be my cut list right now would be, and I would never cut Uncle Phil. If we're having to rank right now, he's been a lot.
I like that you kind of took your own spin on this. Now you've established yourself as a guy that likes flags and hates dogs. That's the rep you want going around. This guy hates dogs.
I love my dog. I love all dogs. I'm not trying to go there, but that's fine.
Extra points for this guy too, because he said he bought tickets to my show coming up in Bloomington on February 13th. He said he doesn't go to many comedy shows. Is it odd to go solo to a comedy event? It is not. I mean, I feel like it's like a movie. Going to comedy shows solo is totally fine, happens all the time. You're not talking with people during the show anyway. Same as a movie. You can go to the movies by yourself. You're watching an event. You could go to a Broadway show by yourself. All that's fine. Don't feel self-conscious about it because people do it all the time. And keep buying those tickets. Hopefully there are people that listen to this that have friends that will go to comedy shows with them. I would like that for my show in Bloomington, but I will take even the solo comedy attendees.
Where else are you? Where else are you at? We know Bloomington.
February 15th is Commonwealth Sanctuary in the Cincinnati area. That's a big one. So get tickets for that, Growl Pals. And then Grand Rapids, Michigan, February 20th through 22nd. And then I'm coming to the Raleigh area on March 20th and Asheville, North Carolina, March 21st. So I think tickets are on sale for all of those. And you can always just reach out to me on social media, and I'll give you the details or the ticket link or hook you up on the VIP list if I can. So that's the best route to go.
I have some relatives in Raleigh who we really, really like and have really similar sense of humors, I think, to us. So I'll have to send them your way.
Okay, good. Yeah,
we'll get some Daners in the front row.
Yeah, that'd be huge. I can get some inside dirt on you too.
They would have that
dark secrets.
Yeah, they would have that. This is like an older cousin. I was the youngest of a big group of cousins.
Okay.
And he's pretty much the oldest. And so there was a lot of like, what are we going to do to Paul today? Like keep torturing of the youngest. But great dude, great family. So you would actually, I think you guys would actually hit it off pretty well now that I think about it. So
honestly, I would just like another call coming from inside the house for Ambush Light, because that happened at the beginning of this podcast where there were like, people close in your inner circle that were trying to air out their grievances, just kind of laundering it through personal. Our podcast. Yeah, it was great. I was very much there for it.
What's happening in dad life? What do you got?
Dad life. It's just a quick one this week for me, but I had to buy light bulbs in the new house for the first time. And my thing is, I hadn't done it before. I didn't know what color our light bulbs were. I didn't know that there were so many options, right? So I got to the hardware store and I was like, all right, there's this kind, there's that kind. I think that we are an energetic Dey Light house. That's what I committed with. Yeah, and I went back home and I found out we are not an energetic Dey Light house. It did not look the same as the other light bulbs. So I had to take that back, and I found out that we are a soft white house.
Yeah,
that hurts. It just feels like Menards is calling you out. Like, yeah, no, you put energetic Dey Light away. You are soft white. That's what you are. You take that and go back to your soft white existence.
Just a family of soft white. That's all you are.
Bummer.
I will say, you don't want to be an LED family.
That's true.
That those lights are too bright. Okay, there's too much there. You don't want to be that. I've lived an LED life, and you're like, no, it must stop.
Yeah,
this is too much.
I
do not want to see that.
What's going on in your world?
Well, I want to point out, we've kind of been on this run in dad life the last couple of weeks, but this is awesome. This thing happened. So we've been talking about Disney, because I'm going to Disney here in a few weeks with my family. You're going later this year. And we're talking a little bit about some of the planning in it. And in that, we mentioned the Facebook group that my wife has been leaning into called Smart Moms Plan Polynesian, which is just there's a group for everybody, right? Well, come to find out, there is one of our avid listeners who is like at the center of all of this. Here's the email. It was from Allison Thomas, and she says she never misses an episode. She has two passions in life: the Bengals and Disney World. So my jaw hit the floor when on last week's episode, I heard you shout out Smart Moms Plan Polynesian Facebook group. This group is run by the agency that I work for, and I even host my own Disney podcast for the company, the Smart Moms Plan Disney Podcast. My best Disney advice is to check it out before your trip. Goes into that. And so then we've started a conversation, lots of great advice, but I think the best piece of advice is to be listening to the Smart Moms Plan Disney podcast, because that's where if you're going, there's a whole podcast just for you to know all the ins and outs, which there are many ins and outs. And it's from a huge Growl pal and a Bengal fan. So shout out to Allison Thomas. Thank you for all the tips. And we are listening. We are now listeners of your podcast. And isn't this kind of the world we live in anymore? Look, you listen to my podcast, I'll listen to your podcast, and that's how we'll be friends. I think that's kind of what it is.
I like that. That's huge. Allie coming through for you. I think like we need more people like this that just their niche is listening to this podcast, and they've got another thing where they can help our lives. Yeah, just keep jumping in with that stuff. I think that we should have her on as a guest, even if it's an episode we don't air, and it's just us getting free tips from her for half an hour or an hour.
Yes.
Like, this is just we're cross promoting here. But like that's huge. I love
certainly
it.
Certainly, we can recap our trips. You know what I mean? We'll see how they went. She can analyze the mistakes that we made and how she told us better, probably.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we probably should have been listening.
Grade the trip.
I love this.
Yeah, we're
So
going
shout out
later
to
this
Allie.
year. So I've got time to listen to the podcast and hit her up with my own questions because I'm sure I'm going to have a bunch of them too. But that is awesome. You know, we're here to plug our community too. You know, we always like raising up the Growl Pals. So she's coming through big for us.
I guess that wraps us up. You're off to the wild world of Wisconsin and whatever hotel you're in right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I get to do some hiking and live the rich people life at this like exclusive resort. Last night I went ice skating on a rink that had nobody else on it, which was very posh. Yeah. A poor sad guy.
Did you try out any moves? Did you work on any of the like triple Lutzes or triple axel maybe or?
Well, I did.
Spin?
I grew up playing ice hockey, so I was doing a little backwards skating. I was turning into that guy a little bit because my wife was there, and so we were talking, and so I was skating backwards. But it does feel a little show-offy on a public ice rink. And there were people. There was an indoor heated curling tent, which you don't see that too much at stuff like this. So there were people up there that were having drinks, looking down at our ice rink, and it's probably a little too much of a flex to be going backwards on the public ice rink, but there was nobody else there, so I felt fine with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, be you. You know what? Show off your skills. Well, all right. I guess that'll wrap us up. We will be back on Monday with the rewatch reaction, myself and Charlie Goldsmith. We are going to be breaking down Trey Hendrickson's season. How good was it? Were there faults in his game? Maybe the Duke Tobin translator will need to show up at the rewatch reaction show. We'll see. Check that out on Monday, and we'll keep on trucking through the offseason. Who knows what will happen next week? So anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.